And it is such a perfect time of year to be talking about this. So imagine this. What would you say if I told you that the most rebellious thing you could do is save seeds from your garden? Isn't that crazy to think about? And it's like, look, I know that I'm talking to a very, very specific audience here. And there's a bunch of different camps within our world of gardening and homesteading, but some people save seeds and some people don't. But the thing is, you're not supposed to save seeds. At least that's what they want you to think. A little bit of disclaimer here before we get started. One, my entire garden is started from seed. And as a matter of fact, for the first time in like 4 years, I have 12 plants that were not started by seed, but that's been all that we have not started from seed. And to be on the other side also, to be very honest, look, on the Backyard Gardens podcast, we sell seeds. We do that because we want to do it for people that want to support us but get something back in return. So we sell seeds through there. There is a link below for that shameless plug in a topic when really you absolutely shouldn't be doing that, but it is what it is, right? So I don't care if you buy seeds or save them. What I care about is if you're falling for the trap, right? And the trap has led us down many bad paths. I have fallen for the trap. I'm sure you have. There's just so many different things that will just cause you to want to buy more seeds. One thing I don't like about our group, if you could say that, whatever, I don't like the running joke of, I've got so many seeds, I can't keep up with them, and my seed box is overflowing and all that. I've spent the past couple of years dwindling down my seed collection as I've realized like there's an error of my ways. And I'm trying to stay true to that. And what I've done is I've started figuring out certain plants that I want to grow, and I keep growing them. But when you look at it, there's a lot of things that we can do that will help us know if we need to buy a seed or save a seed. First trap is, and this is kind of like both our fault and the seed company's fault. So the first trap is you're not getting what you want out of your plant, so you think that buying a different variety is going to get you something better, get you more of it. Well, and it's advertised that way. High producing, high yield plants, right? Well, a lot of times a simple double dose of fertilizer, or doubling up on your fertilizer, going a little bit sooner, will get you what you want. It's pretty amazing what a plant will give you. So it's not always the variety. Sometimes it's you and what you're doing. Are you watering enough? Are you feeding enough? Are you doing all these things that can give you the optimum growth for the maximum yield from the plant? And if you think you are, and you truly think you are, and when I say that too, I also mean eliminating pests, like overall general health, and you think you're not getting what you need, then maybe it's time to look for a different variety. But I say you try everything in your power. This right here is a great example. This broccoli right here, for years I struggled. I got about a 20% harvest every spring because it all bolted, every bit of it. But what ended up happening, I changed the way I grew. I did a bunch of varieties in the interim, trying to figure out what I wanted. And I went back to my original, which is Waltham broccoli, a standard, if you want to say, a square, boring variety, but it produces a lot. It produces heavy, and I know I can reproduce those results every single season that I grow it. So what I did differently was I planted 3 months earlier. I fertilized 4 times as much as I had been. And this year, for the past 2 years, which is 4 seasons, I've gotten a 100% harvest off of my broccoli. I went from 20 to 100%. And the first thing I did was just planting earlier made all the difference in the world. That was it. Then I started feeding and I got the size I wanted, right? I was getting heads of broccoli this year that were bigger than what you get at the grocery store. And I had complained last winter that I wasn't getting the heads that you see at the grocery store. I knew I was doing something wrong. So this variety right here is a standard basic variety that I know grows in my area. And we'll get into an example of that here in a second. Another thing is the sexiness of the garden. There's a common thread that the garden needs to be sexy. Needs to be just luscious and perfect all the time. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, my garden is far from perfect. I feel like my garden describes as a representation of an average garden as far as maintenance and stuff like that. We have stuff growing on it, you know, like this buckwheat that's coming up here. We've got a potato growing in our Brussels sprouts, whatever. In the world of social media and how many people that want to be social media influencers, and especially in the gardening world, ever since the COVID days, the sexy plants are what draws us in, right? And this is a big issue. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to textures. I'm referring to colors of fruit, stuff like that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing until it becomes a bad thing. I think that it's your garden. You should do what you want. I think it's a lifestyle and a hobby. And it's whatever you want to fall under. But on the same breath, we have to be very careful. You know, I keep going back to this broccoli, but for good reason, and this is the most drastic thing I can think about. If you take, and I planted all Romanesco broccoli here, which is, if you don't know what it is, it looks like a spiral. It's just super weird looking broccoli. It would look totally, I mean, it would just be intriguing to look at, right? And if I wanted to be hardcore social media influencer and do that, then absolutely. But I'm focused on feeding my family and production. And first of all, we know and love this, so that's what we do. But it's not as sexy to see a Waltham broccoli in a garden. Sure, some of you, and I appreciate it, are gonna comment and say it absolutely is sexy and it looks great, and thank you very much. But at the same time, that's what gets us in. Now the issue with it is, if that seed is from somewhere else in the world, I can think of one company that's really egregious with selling seeds from all over the world. There's differences in climates that interfere with the way that it grows, right? So we use the Romanesco broccoli. I've never grown it. I'm not really ever interested in it, but that is one. But another thing is like purple colored fruits and vegetables. So one year we took a bed and we got some purple, I think they were dragon carrots. And I planted a 2 square foot space of carrots. I wanted to see, they were a South Indian carrot. They were supposed to be very heat tolerant. And then right next to them, I grew a scarlet mayonnaise carrot, which is a basic carrot. The only difference really, in my opinion, between that and like a Danvers carrot is it's rounded at the bottom. It doesn't have that Bugs Bunny look. Which I like the Bugs Bunny look, what can I say? But we grew that and it was awful. It did horrible. It didn't grow right. It went to seed almost right away. And what carrots we did get were covered in fine roots, very hairy, just unedible, in my opinion. And I started looking at it and I was like, you know what? I think it was a symptom of like, my climate is not meant to grow those, plain and simple. And I think that was an issue. And he didn't take that into account before he planted it. So when you go to get something, check and see, read about it, see if it's supposed to grow, see how it does, and have it and do it in your area compared to where it came from. This is a good time to take a break and see what we've been saving seeds for how many years and stuff like that, and just how it's worked out. So first of all, we've got this Roma tomato. This is a staple in our garden. We've saved these seeds. I think this is the 3rd or 4th year. I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I'll get new seeds and do them. Sometimes I won't. So this isn't a consistently saved seed, but these are from, like I said, 3 to 4 years old. We've been saving these seeds. And if we come over here, this Seminole pumpkin, which is, and I don't know if you see all the time, so I realize I don't come over here to this side a whole lot on camera, but look how much it's taken over. This seed is 5 years old. We started, somebody sent us 8 seeds, 7 of them molded. We had 1 seed, and we have saved this seed every year for 5 years. And that's a key number to remember here. Another thing that we save seeds from and never purchased are our black-eyed peas. So I was gifted one pod, and from that one pod, we are 5 years in on saving the seed for it and planting over and over, never purchased a single one. So the reason why that number 5 years is very important is because that's generally thought about how long it takes for a seed, if you grow it and save it and grow it and save it each year in your garden, for it to be climatized to your area. That's usually what they think. So if you think about it that way, like this Seminole pumpkin, which is a Florida native, is now made as genetically programmed to an extent to be grown for my climate in my garden, which is great, right? It means it's going to be producing more and more every year, and it's happier and happier. Same with these black-eyed peas. So this will be year one of saving for these, but this pepper right here is going to be saved for sure. If you lift up its skirt, it is loaded with peppers. I've got to come out here and cut more of these peppers off. It's crazy. It's absolutely a genetics that we want to save in our garden, right? And the cool thing about it is if I keep saving these seeds year after year, I can pass my seed down to my son and keep it in the family year after year, right? It's just pretty cool if you think about it. So a big question I ask myself is this something that is a problem to humanity? The fact that we are not saving seeds as gardeners and homesteaders as much, and even for that matter, a lot of farmers. I mean, with GMO crops, you got to think about it. A lot of those seeds are sterile. They're sterile. They're infertile. They don't create seed that's viable. And if they do, it's real limited on how they're going to grow and all that stuff. And then the same comes with hybrids, where hybrids you can save the seed for, they may revert back. And if it's more stabilized and you can save the seeds, revert back to their parent traits instead of the traits that the actual seed has. But is it a problem for humanity? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that there are seed banks set up all over the world to preserve seeds throughout life. The timeline, and there's all kinds of seeds in there, so somebody's worried about it somewhere. But this little thing called cash is a problem, and it's a cash grab, and it's gotten really bad over the years. So when you get those seed catalogs this year and you start thumbing through it and you get that pretty Baker's Creek catalog, be careful, because you may just be buying a seed that you don't really need to have in your garden. I give you a good example of that. So last year, this is not breaking information, but last year was a very sad year for gardening. I used to take pride in the fact that you could communicate with somebody who was worried that hybrids were GMO crops. And just to clear this up, hybrids are not genetically modified. They are selectively bred for their traits. But genetically modified is obviously different, where it's spliced at a genetic level. But last year it changed, because I could tell you with confidence 2 years ago, you can't buy a genetically modified seed for your garden. It is impossible. Well, now that's not the case. As a lot of you know, the purple, I don't remember the name of the tomato, but it was created. It is a purple tomato. See, there's that color purple again. It gets the gardeners every time. But the purple tomato came out, and it was loaded with antioxidants, loaded with basically all of the nutrition of a blueberry, and including the color of the skin added to it, but it was genetically modified. Well, Baker's Creek put that on the front of their seed catalog and advertised it. Now, I don't think they maliciously did it, but at the same time, they should have done their research first and known what they were putting out there. So there is that little bit of an issue. But, you know, that really rocked my gardening world personally, because I was like, wow, this is really coming into the mainstream. Like, now we really have to be careful about what seeds we're putting in our garden, because I could blindly buy seeds before and I don't do GMO at all. It's not my thing. I know there's people out there that say it's great and it's saving the world and all that. And it may, in the short time, feeding when population is high, but known fact, as the population of the world is decreasing because people are not having children, it takes a certain amount of children to keep a population growing. And as a whole, the population is not having as many children. So ultimately what we're doing as of right now is we're decreasing the world population. Eventually, and this is going to be many years, I'll probably be dead and gone, but this is how this things work. You won't need as much, right? Well, at that point though, if you put your dependency on these crops that don't produce seed, you're in a world of problems, right? So we've got to figure that out. If you don't save seeds, do this. If you noticed, every seed that I told you have been saved for 5 years, what was the common thread behind those? They were super easy to save. I didn't have to do anything to the seed. I basically harvested, I cut it, I pulled the seeds out, I dried them, and then I ate the food. Nothing was wasted. It took up no extra space in my garden. Start small, do what you want, stop collecting seeds, and stop worrying about those damn catalogs. Who cares about a seed catalog? Goodbye.